Islam to the Mamluks. Geography of the Middle East. Academics have not reached a consensus on the geographical boundaries of the Middle East. However, for the purposes of this chapter, this region will encompass the broadly defined areas known as Persia, Mesopotamia, the Levant, Asia Minor, and the Arabian Peninsula. The Middle East straddles three continents, including Asia, Africa, and Europe. The geography of the area promoted cultural diffusion by facilitating the spread of peoples, ideas, and goods along overland and maritime trade routes, in an area generally characterized by its aridity. Climate has influenced settlement patterns. Larger settlements are found in river valleys and well-watered areas along the littoral. In these areas, we see the development and spread of productive agriculture. Rise of Islam. Legend traces the Arabs back to Ismail, the son of Abraham, and his Egyptian maid, Hagar, a link that would later help to legitimize Islam by connecting it to the Hebrew tradition. In reality, Arabs inhabited the pre-Islamic Arabian Peninsula and shared socio-linguistic commonalities with such other Semitic-speaking peoples in the area as the Hebrews, Assyrians, Arameans, and even the Amhara of Ethiopia. Most of the population of Arabia prior to the rise of Islam resided in the south of the peninsula, in modern-day Yemen, where they practiced terraced agriculture and herded ruminants in a relatively small area, farther to the north of Yemen. Along the highland spine of western Arabia and up against the littoral of the Red Sea, was the Hijaz, a prominent cultural and economic region. Situated in this remote fastness was the dusty city of Mecca, the holiest place in the peninsula and the location of the Kaaba, or cube, which contained many of the traditional Arabian religious images, including many Christian icons. So important was the Kaaba to the religion of polytheistic tribes of Arabia that they negotiated a truce lasting 1 month every year that allowed for safe pilgrimage to the shrine. The Hijaz was the most arable part of the Arabian Peninsula north of Yemen and distinguished by irrigated agriculture that supported fruit trees and essential grains. Local traders exported a range of Hijazi agricultural products to Syria in the north in return for imperative imports like textiles and olive oil, so the region benefited from robust trade. Regional commerce depended on the security of trade, and piracy on the Red Sea threatened to disrupt business. Under these conditions, merchants diverted their trade overland. Many goods journeyed up the Red Sea rift from Yemen on their way to the eastern Mediterranean. Caravans of camels carried these goods, as well as Hijazi exports, to the Levant. Most of the caravans stopped in Mecca, the halfway point up the spine of the peninsula, thus their commerce brought much-needed wealth and tax revenue to the city. The Arabs first domesticated the camel, probably sometime between 300 and 1000 BCE. Caravan operators eventually availed themselves of these useful dromedaries because they were so adept at crossing the region's massive deserts. Capable of drinking 100 liters of water in mere minutes, they could endure days of travel without needing to replenish themselves again. Moreover, camels instinctively remembered the locations of important, life-sustaining oases. So important were these beasts of burden that the tribes that controlled the camels controlled the trade. And the Quraysh tribe of Mecca commanded many of the camels in the Hijaz region, therefore, they commanded much of the trade. Life in the Arabian Peninsula centered around the tribe, which usually consisted of a group of relatives who claimed a shared ancestry. Tribal traditions found meaning in the poetic concept of Murowa, which represented the notion of the ideal tribal man. This uniquely Arabian brand of chivalry focused on bravery, patience, persistence in revenge, generosity, hospitality, and protection of the poor and weak. In the absence of formal government, tribes offered physical security to its individual members. Tribes mitigated violence and theft through the shared understanding that retribution for such acts would follow swiftly. Tribes also organized to compete over increasingly scarce resources, as they had a responsibility to provide for the economic needs of their individual members. Nevertheless, tribal traditions had been breaking down prior to the rise of Islam. No longer were the dominant members of society adhering to the principles set forth in Murowa. Into this evolving cultural milieu Muhammad, c. 570, 632, was born in the city of Mecca. Muhammad's father, Abdullah, was a member of the Hashemite clan, a less prosperous branch of the Quraysh tribe. Abdullah died just prior to his son's birth, and Muhammad's mother passed away when he was just 6 years old. Orphaned at such a young age, his tribe intervened to ensure Muhammad's survival. His uncle, Abu Thalib, the leader of the Hashemite clan and an important member of the Quraysh tribe, eventually took custody of the young boy. These early privations influenced Muhammad's later desire to take care of those who could not care for themselves. In his youth, Muhammad found employment in the regional caravan trade as a dependable herder and driver of camels. During this period, he cultivated a reputation of an empathetic and honest man, one who earned the respect of many Meccans. His upright character soon attracted the attention of a wealthy merchant known as Khadija, who hired Muhammad to manage her caravans. Once Muhammad proved his reliability, Khadija, who was 15 years older than Muhammad, proposed to him, and they married. This marriage afforded Muhammad a financial security that allowed him to begin meditating on religion in the abstract. Muhammad had been concerned about the direction society had recently been taking and that the concepts defined by Murowa were no longer being upheld. He believed that some of the most influential members of society, namely the merchant elite of the Quraysh tribe, were no longer respecting their traditional responsibilities to the weaker members of society because of their own greed. He thought that the people of the book, specifically, Christians and Jews, might have a better answer for the ills afflicting Meccan society. Muhammad had contact with the Christians and Jews of the peninsula and even traveled to Christian Syria while working in the caravan trade. In this context, the angel Gabriel appeared to Muhammad at a cave nearby to Mecca in 610, during the holy month of Ramadan. The angel Gabriel instructed him to recite, and then he spoke the divine word of God. His revelations became the Quran. At first, Muhammad displayed the very human reactions of fear and distrust to the apparition of the angel Gabriel. He also expressed embarrassment because he did not want to be associated with the pagan diviners of the region. Fortunately, his wife Khadija had a cousin who was a Hanif, someone who was neither a Christian nor a Jew, but who believed in a vague concept of a monotheistic God. Her cousin trusted the veracity of Muhammad's revelations. So with trepidation, Muhammad eventually accepted his role as God's vehicle. His wife became the first convert to Islam, with Abu Thalib's son Ali